welcome everyone to this, the words of our mouth. For some practical matters, please don't send chats while someone is reading. And please adopt the speaker view. And please mute yourself while we're doing it. I'd like to first thank Marjorie Raskin, Shirley Huey, and Steve Bright, who really planted the seed for this and threw it to us so that this program is happening. Can we see all the speakers? Yeah. So I'd like to introduce the other the readers. I'm Bernie Horn. The others are Beth Birnbaum, Joel Moskowitz, Mitch Rosenberg, Rosie Rosenzweig, and Chris Thurston. And in the middle of this reading, we're going to have a musical interlude, a Sephardic song played by Dan and Seth Goodman. These are poems that are inspired and dedicated to Lorel Czar-Kessler. Though only one of these poems was composed for this occasion, every one of them acknowledges and celebrates Lorel across the domain of her many roles as music lover, cantor, and not so much cantor as prayer leader and prayer, what my father used to call a master of prayer, Ba'alat Tefillah. And beyond music, as teacher, learner, text wrestler, lover of literature, and lover of all matters Jewish. And beyond these communal roles, as spiritual searcher, as beloved and lover, as daughter and as sister, as mother, as grandmother, and as dear friend. And we will begin the reading with Beth.
Song. A bird, as in a myth, spreads feathers blue as lapis in blessing, singing morning and evening, year after year, in lilting measures, leading her flock heavenward to a murmuration dance, a psalm of mourning and joy, a swaying, swooping, skyward exaltation. Such a bird brings a hush of holiness to her habitat, a brush with divinity in her sanctuary, a house of song of God. Oh, this bird leaves her melody floating in air, notes lingering, melting hearts, lifting spirits, taking breaths away, heartbeats like metronomes, keeping time. Song notes like seeds blown shimmer in the air, rays of glory, glittering glimpses of oneness, droplets, glistening wonder, breath streaming light. This beloved bird is leaving, yet the sanctuary echoes with song, and the garden reverberates with melody. The song gathers, crescendos, and in the soft hush of the wings of a bird taking flight, a chorus of birds rises in wonder, and the song remains.
From The Idea of Order at Key West by Wallace Stevens. She sang beyond the genius of the sea, The water never formed to mind or voice like a body, holy body, fluttering its empty sleeves. And yet its mimic motion made constant cry, caused constantly a cry that was not ours, although we understood, inhuman, of the veritable ocean. The sea was not a mask, no more was she. The song and water were not medleyed sound, even if what she sang was what she heard, since what she sang was uttered word by word. It may be that all her phrases stirred the grinding water and the gasping wind, but it was she and not the sea we heard. For she was the maker of the song she sang. The ever hooded, tragic, gestured sea was merely a place by which she walked to sing. Whose spirit is this? We said, because we knew it was the spirit that we sought and knew that we should ask this often as she sang. If it was only the dark voice of the sea that rose, or even colored by many waves, if it was only the outer voice of sky and cloud, of the sunken coral water-walled, however clear, it would have been deep air, the heaving speech of air, a summer sound, repeated in a summer without end, and sound alone. But it was more than that, more even than her voice and ours among the meaningless plungings of water and wind, theatrical distances, bronze shadows heaped on high horizons, mountainous atmospheres of sky and sea. It was her voice that made the sky acutest at its vanishing. She measured to the hour its solitude. She was the single artificer of the world in which she sang. And when she sang, the sea, whatever self it had, became the self that was her song, for she was the maker. Then we, as we beheld her striding there alone, knew that there never was a world for her except the one she sang and singing made.
You're muted.
Miriam before the crossing. There is a song resting and rocking the warm air that I hear but can't quite sing. It enters me from out of old volcanic rock as dense as the dark past. I felt it in Hebraic cantillations, in the rising and the falling of a scribe writing on parchment. I know it like my own blood running unseen in the hidden chambers of my ribs. Could it resound like thunder, appear as fire, become a pillar, a cloud, or even death? The Bible says choose life. I walk between the parting waves, moving like a minstrel to the music that I am, have been, and always will be.
The author of the last poem I read, Wallace Stevens, said something like, a poem should almost successfully escape the intellect. The author of this next poem, Robert Bly, replied, only music can do that. So if a poem has no genius in sound, the intellect will imprison it. Where we must look for help by Robert Bly. The dove returns, it found no resting place. It was in flight all night above the shaken seas. Beneath arc eaves, dove shall magnify the tiger's bed. Give the dove peace. The split-tailed swallows leave the sill at dawn.
He's quoting Robert Bly.
At dusk, blue swallows shall return. On the third day, the crow shall fly. The crow, the crow, the spider-colored crow. The crow shall find new mud to walk upon.
Meditation Before Reading Torah by Marge Piercy. We are the people of the word, and the breath of the word fills our minds with light. We are the people of the word, and the breath of life sings through us, playing on the pipes of our bones and the strings of our sinews, an ancient song carved in the Laurentian granite, and new as a spring azure butterfly just drying her wings in a moment's splash of sun. We must live the word and make it real. We are the people of the book, and the letters march busy as ants, carrying the work of the ages through our minds. We are the people of the book. Through fire and mud and dust, we have borne our scrolls tenderly as a baby swaddled in a blanket, traveling with our words sewn in our clothes and carried on our backs. Let us take up the scroll of Torah and dance with it and touch it and read it out, for the mind touches the word and makes it light. So does light enter us, and we shine.
Schubert. I want to say something about this poem before I read it. I chose it because of its musical theme, which seemed appropriate. But as I got it out and looked at it, I remembered that this poem had its origin 30 years ago at the bat mitzvah of Rachel Zar Kessler, when I was the gabbai. And my thinking when I was writing this poem was, what can someone in his mid-40s, a man in his mid-40s, say to to a young woman of 13? But the poem went its way, the way paintings go their way and stories go their ways and musical compositions goes their way. So instead of it being a conversation between a 40-something-year-old man and a 13-year-old girl, it became a conversation between a 40-something-year-old man and his 35-year-old earlier shadow or something like that. So that's Schubert. We're late bloomers, my friend Naletti said in the mid-90s in one of our quick exchanges in the hall. And what could I do but agree? As I remembered the spring of '77, when I sat and stared at the old man's watercolor, a Lake District landscape painted for memory over my mantle and my Cambridge pad. I was touching bottom then, broken by 6 long years of heart and dissertation wars with myself and others, face to face now for the first time with the truth next door to despair that I don't have to finish, that it is not my mind. It is not my parents' dreams. It is not perfect. It will not change my life. It is itself, no more, no less. And somehow, as alone as I've ever been, I knew enough to fill my eyes with the watercolor and the room with Schubert, the C major quintet it was. And my imagination dead, I haunted Schubert, and he me, his heart too, shaken in the indescribable and exquisite feud that mingled the tenderness, joy, and grandeur he must have heard with the dim conceived glories that filled his mind before setting hand to piano, pen to paper. The quintet too, only itself, no more, no less.
Rosh Hashanah prayer. Adonai, the darkness and the light of your universe have flowed through me this year. Time has flowed through me this year. And I, standing on the riverbank of your enlightenment, have been transformed. I have tasted the sweetest of honey, and I have tasted the bitterest of herb. I have laughed with joy and cried in pain. Yet the bitter and the sweet, the tears and the laughter have merged and led me to a deeper place. We are all children of your universe, equally vulnerable to joy and to pain at any moment. Help us to know that they spring from the same source. Help us to follow in their paths of beauty and agony and not be afraid, for they are truly but different strands of the same braided thread, holding our lives in mysterious suspension, forming the same knot. As darkness fades into dawn, as light merges into dusk, so joy and sorrow, life and death become but different ripples in the same river, whose pattern flows on. May we find the strength and the vision this year to be whole, to find you in both the bitter and the sweet.
Valentine, 2014. Yes, the flesh does hang differently at 70 than it did when we met decades back on the beach in Herzliya. You lithe in blue bikini, I in that baggy green bathing suit, thickly bearded with a tangle of dark hair. Yes, you caught your foot between rock and root and broke your ankle at the end of our hike in Austria in September. And I caught mine on a post outside the library 2 weeks ago and fractured 3 ribs. And yes, the imagination takes far more coaxing than it used to at easel or desk. But still, we will manage to maneuver down the sleet-coated driveway in an hour to get you to the doctor on time. 4.5-year-old Roni did demonstrate to us this morning on Skype from Tel Aviv that she will be queen of the night on Purim this year by showing us her shiny black shoes and hitting the high notes of the famous aria, her mouth a perfect O. And whether stumbling in crevices or graceful in sandals, there's not a foot in the world I'd rather massage at night, love, than yours.
So for quite a number of years, Laurel would have a theme at Slichot, and on Slichot, before we changed the covers on the Torah scrolls, we would have an wonderful arts program. And I got so in the habit of, before every new year, every new Jewish year, of writing a poem. So that even after I left Bethel and moved to Florida, I continued to write poems at the new year. And this is one. If I could cry. If I could ever really cry again, I would pray. Shehechianu. If I could see, truly see, the shade of red that signals ripeness, find the scent misplaced by memory. If I could forgive like the wind or remember like a wolf, I would sing out, Shehechianu. On this autumn afternoon, stones glow at the bottom of a slow, shallow river. A frog scissors back into the light. A bright five-fingered leaf flutters like a startled heart. A new season arrives, Shehechianu, V'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh.
Red, red. Genesis 25:30. As I hoisted the last and heaviest of the storage bins down from the highest shelf, it shifted, started to slip. My heart jumped and my hand got caught, skin pinched between bin and shelf. I yowled and I laughed at my typical clumsiness. Have a look, I said as you rushed in, took in the wine red blister and lifted it to your mouth. Please mute. Is that all there is? I wondered as I looked at your blood-stained lips. On our first road trip with the girls years back, the four of us so sick of each other after 6 hours in the car that we traded the highway for a country road somewhere in Ontario where we bought quarts of raspberries, a ration luxury at home, at a roadside stand. We threw them into our mouths by the handful, crushed the sweet piquant capsules between palate and tongue, gobbled them down, and couldn't stop laughing, sputtering as we pointed. Is that all there is? At our red-stained lips and teeth.
Letters. Chet, Samach, Pei. No, it's Pei, Samach, Chet. The red Hebrew letters on the milk carton unexpectedly transformed themselves into meaning. Pesach, kosher lePesach, kosher for Passover. I open the refrigerator, place the container on the shelf. The light clicks off, but the graceful characters remain in my mind's eye. It is April 1989. Passover is coming. Our son will be 2 in July, and the milk in its ordinary cardboard carton has revealed something hidden until now. Next year, if not in Jerusalem, then maybe as a Jew, a Jewish family, together, one. The afternoon sun slants through the new leaves on the maple outside the two-family house and illuminates my kitchen. It is Nisan 5749, and I am not a Jew yet. I am not the same person who took the milk out and put it on the table only 10 minutes ago.
The dinner. Our first dinner together, 6 parents of teenagers, each couple, it turned out, having been carrying the amazed conviction that all the others had this parenting business down. Until one of the fathers said, across platters of steamed fish, Szechuan green beans, family-style eggplant, and vegetarian mushi, "Let me tell you what happened this morning," nudging the cacophony of overlapping conversations into silence. "All I said to her was, 'How are you doing?' To which she replied, 'What'd you say that for?' And all 6 of us at once were getting words in edgewise in a flood of revelation of how comforted we had all been by the belief that anyone had it down, this labor of parenting. how we were all grappling in uncertainty at the stunning opacity of it all that has not let up much over almost 4 decades of dinners. Merrill, Bob, Arnie, Laurel, Bernie, Linda. Now we're delighted that Dan will grace us. Here he is.
Sure. Thank you so much. So, as a short musical interlude, you are going to hear a Sephardic love song that my son Seth and I recorded. The song is La Rosa en Florence by Cuban-Spanish composer Joachim Nin Colmel. Tonight, you will hear an instrumental version for viola and piano. If you would like to hear this song sung in Ladino, please mark your calendar for May 15th, when Belle Halpern, Beth Shine, and I perform a Lahitra Haute Laurel concert called Sephardic Song and Sondheim. I hope you enjoy our piece.
That's great.
Thank you so much, Dan and Seth. Hit Lamdut after Elizabeth Bishop, One Art. Accept something you cannot change, reads the fortune cookie, and you will feel better. Just something, not everything. Not the parent in a labyrinth of lost memory. Not the 25-year-old in a wheelchair. Not the vanishing rainbow of frogs. Not world hunger, just something. Look into a pond on a rainy morning. The water embraces each drop completely. For us, it is not so simple. We spend our time running from or towards, pushing or pulling. Rabbi Yochanan suggests we could learn modesty from a cat, honesty from the ants. Can a turtle teach us to pause on a sunny afternoon? Our dogs lead us to pure gratitude. How do you tikkun olam? Inquires the bumper sticker. Repair of the world requires looking at what we'd rather not. The last year my father lived at home, I cared for his feet, washing and drying them gently, the joints swollen with arthritis. Pick one thing. Begin with what you love. Ice cream, our soft sweaters. Work up to Boston driving, or calling the IRS. That desire to run away is our teacher, a bell to bring us back to now.
I don't want to lose, awakening in the hush of early rush hour traffic as light enters the room, streaks a wall, and makes my water bottle glow like a firefly. And I don't want to lose glancing out at the neighbor's breakfast window, glimpsing part of an arm, someone reaching and partaking of pleasure. Don't ever want to lose lemonade, and how I'm never satisfied drinking just one cold swallow out of the small etched glass that once held a memorial candle. I don't want to lose Willis Lake, hundreds of water lilies swaying in the wetlands and sunlight. Don't want to lose tinkling piano tunes rising from the apartment below. What about thunderstorms? A bouquet of cream peonies, Brazilian fish stew, warm challah, another baklava dripping honey. Don't want to lose dancing as a large stepping rooster in my kitchen at night, letting go, oh, letting go, reaching high as if there is no ceiling.
Let me not be afraid. Let me not be afraid of the letters, all fire, all brimstone, without parchment, without bone. They are as fleshless as I am alone. They breathe, and I hear that formless echo sparking images of the first creation. They move, and all sensation becomes a silent rush toward the curved embrace of time. If I could close my eyes and remember what could light a bush and not consume, whose fingers made the tablets bloom with holiness, I could draw warmth from stone, or better yet, a rock. I could get honey from a rock. I could wrestle with an angel, know my true name, and not fall a victim to this wall of chatter. An easy prayer would be a bridge to this, my source, my love. Help me curl my mouth around that seed. I've lost my youth in search of inspiration. Give me the power of the first aleph, the soundless sound before the first word that was wind, and the first silence before my long journey into meaning. Bernie.
Yeah, Bernie. Bernie, you're muted.
Bernie, you have to start over. Unmute. Unmute, Bernie. There you go.
Oh, okay. It's called The Silence for JS. And around these, in a larger circle of pain and time, 2 hospitals are scattered and 1 graveyard. That's from Yehuda Amichai's The Diameter of the Bomb. In the silence last night, I managed to recapture my vision early in the morning of the second day of a universe sopping with kindness that saturated the white space around me, which contained the and caress of breath in nostrils, cool and warm, cool in, warm out, cool in along the top of the nose, warm out along the bottom, and the pale odor and ambience of 100 bodies breathing in a large room, and my faintly acrid tongue. In the silence, I let my breath begin coolly in the intake through the nostrils and slowly pour downward into the abdomen, then chest, swelling the lower ribs and the upper ribs, outward and upward into the large spaciousness, and then pause, and then empty from the top down, warmly into the room where it joined all the others, breathing out and in even breaths. In the silence, I didn't stop there, but let the breath continue outward, all the way to the great domain of total peace, where somehow, slowly fading in, there was music, a new melody for the old invocation that the source of peace out there, let peace rain down in here on us, on our people, and on all who live on earth. But in the silence, it wasn't a prayer, but a sensation that a moment later was all tangled up with a poem that begins from the diameter of a terror bomb and the circle of death and grief around it, then expands across oceans and continents and carries the cries of orphans outward and upward to the end of all ends, where there is no God, but only a larger silence.
At the lake, a stone in shallow water glimmers. The current pulls. The stone slides onto my foot, or my foot slides under it. I bend and pick it up. Mica dappled, granite, gray. It freely bounces up, down in my hand. Held, the stone feels blunt, like an old penny. Flat and expansive, bone smooth, long like a wing. There, can you see it? Flying at such speed that it doesn't wobble, but strikes the lake at an angle, bouncing off kilter, quietly splashing 3, 4, 5 arcs into the sky, light glinting off.
The Western Wall. The rocks are bursting in this, the place of rocks. Stones standing on the shoulders of other stones. A wall whose words rise up from the sealed bonds of memory. Hymns sound, spread, and fly like the preened wings of birds who court and search the landscape for their place, a nest within the shrubs, bursting with bush above our heads. These roots hold the heart of the wall. Boulders, like ancient stairs, raise a stairway Each rise a note, each step a new prayer, with praise and please that multiply and wail like a chorus of blues singers skit-scatting up the scale from their bottom base, from their pit of this old-time ruin. They tell of temple times, and by those tales climb up beyond the peaks of turrets. The wall grows bright and brighter at each sound. Daughter to these prayers, can I join this reach and blend with the sun and moon and stars and clouds? I want to be the wall, homeland for these birds who roost, flutter, and hover here in this sweet peak of light. Yearning to become one mouth with you, I crave to sing in choir, note by note, to rebuild rock by pillar, and to become myself with you.
I chose the next poem, Laurel, because it has to do with passages. You probably remember our congregant, Paul Thorner, who for years had the volunteer job of polishing all the silver in the synagogue. He wanted to pass it on finally, so he showed me how he did it, and I wrote this poem. Silver Breastplate. He draws back the ark's plush burgundy drape. Scrolls of the law stand adorned like priests of temple times, when our animal sacrifices plumed the sky with ash. He touches a tiny bell, now sounding, now silent on a breastplate. He sees that the silver has tarnished, gold-toned smudges, fingerprints, carvings darkened, the veins of grape leaves stained. Two rampant lions of Judah stand in a hazy atmosphere. He pries open the cobalt blue can of Never Dull, smells a mild odor of gasoline, and with a wadding of damp felt begins. While voices drift through walls, students of Torah diving deeply, polishing each thought, counting every letter a jewel. His creased face shadowed, a black greasy film on his fingers. This is his burnt offering. He burnishes the plate with soft cloths.
I miss the dreams for my mother. I miss the dreams you meant to me, the hope that used to roll from me at night. I'll never say that the bright and cloudless sky will soon see a younger, better you. What's really gone is bones and flesh and warmth. I can't remember warmth. I only have this cool and chilly shock, a blank absence, a closeness to the void that I don't want, and then the drum roll of earth on wood. I walk by water, and the waves have wet my feet. My prints are smoothed away behind me. Soon I'll search again for that underside of memory.
Gratitude to Old Teachers by Robert Bly. When we stride or stroll across the frozen lake, we place our feet where they have never been. We walk upon the unwalked, but we are uneasy. Who is down there but our old teachers? Water that once could take no human weight, we were students then, holds up our feet and goes on ahead of us for a mile. Beneath us, the teachers, and around us, the stillness.
The gentle world. There must be a gentle world. Mushrooms send their healing mycelia through the mossy earth. Trees listen with their sensile leaves to the weeping in the wind. The world must be gentle because even jagged rocks smooth over time from the passing of feet, and our faces shine from caresses too. Love is a mist. There is pain, but wounds heal under soothing bandages. And we uphold the basics, like strangers calling people darling for those who like that endearment. Advice for one who loses hope. Sedatives for one with too much hope. There's gold drifting down and shimmering off the scales of trout. There is nectar for bees to store in their honey sacks. And though the deer and birds steal our fruit, there are enough hard peaches softening in the sunlight for us to feel grateful.
This is from a COVID log that I've been keeping. And this is called March 27th, The Bird. And it begins with a quote from Ellen Bass. But it isn't nothing to know even one moment alive. As in this plague year, 5 of us are Skyping or WhatsApping each other every day across 3 continents, although there were few swerves in the news as the death toll hits 24,000. And the hollowness of our president battens and battens. At the drugstore, though, the man behind you online takes a gracious stance, step and a half back, and tilts his head, whimsical, dead serious, and amused. And on Donlan Street, twa-wee, wow, 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 wow. The pitch and beat of an unseen bird, sounding its coloratura shofar in call and response cadence, amused too, as it easily outdoes my dry-lipped, whistly strivings, as if the natural world we despoil so casually feels a large kindliness towards us all, which it cannot suppress.
The Dove by Yehuda Amichai, translated by Bernard Horn. The dove brought news of the end of the flood, an olive leaf in her mouth, like a man holding a letter in his mouth as he searches for something with both hands. Or like a girl holding pins in her mouth as she repairs her dress.
The Summer Day by Mary Oliver. Who made the world? Who made the swan and the black bear? Who made the grasshopper? This grasshopper, I mean, the one who has flung herself out on the grass, the one who is eating sugar out of my hand, who is moving her jaws back and forth instead of up and down, who is grazing around with her enormous and complicated eyes. Now she lifts her pale forearms and thoroughly washes her face. Now she snaps her wings open and floats away.
It's 8:30.
My computer talks. I don't know exactly what a prayer is. I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down into the grass, how to kneel down in the grass, how to be idle and blessed, how to stroll through the fields, which is what I have been doing all day. Tell me, what else should I have done? Doesn't everything die at last and too soon? Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life?
Thank you. And our aim, I guess, is in this collection of various poems to capture something of the fullness of Laurel. Loa, the fullness of Laurel. Wait. And now, keeping with traditions, we have something for Laurel. Where is it? Here we are. So we invite anyone who wishes to make comments or ask questions or sing. If you,
That would be so nice. Let me just take one moment of heartfelt gratitude. I feel that we could do this every every Shabbat or every Saturday night, to listen to the same beautiful, beautiful renderings over and over again. Create our own liturgy, our own Siddur of the beauty of all your teachings. Bernie, Mitch, Christine, Beth, Rosie, Joel, Dan, and Seth, you are all my teachers and have guided me and been my underpinning for these many, many years with your devotion to beauty in the world, to the power of sound and music and song and the expressive nature of poetry. You teach me continually, and I am ever, ever grateful to share this community and this love of Torah and one another and word with you. Thank you, thank you.